Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and Matt McCabe has just testified at the Karen Reed trial concerning his text messages. Now, right away, I saw it go crazy on the internet that, oh, this is it. This is what just blows this whole thing apart. This is what proves the defense's claim that there's a conspiracy theory and that Karen Reed had nothing to do with the death of her boyfriend, John O'Keefe. Here is the text that they're all going nuts about. Matt McCabe texted, "Tell him to tell them the guy didn't go in the house. Actually, it was into the house. Tell him to tell the guy, tell him to tell them the guy didn't go into the house." And this person says, "Hey, see, we're done here." All right. So I listened to watch the video of Matt McCabe trying to explain his text messages, as Yannetti tried to make him look like a liar and a fellow who was trying to protect people and wasn't telling the truth. But is that exactly how it goes? All right. What I want to explain to you is a thing called confirmation bias. Now, confirmation bias is a problem for everyone. That includes the police and profilers. If you come into a case with the belief that this person did it, then you will often take evidence and either try to fit it into your theory, or you'll try to just ignore it if it doesn't fit your theory, or you'll try to, well, just connect all those dots that maybe even shouldn't be connected. Or maybe you'll find dots to connect that don't even have anything to do. They're not even relevant. But hey, we'll make them relevant because one wants to believe what their theory is, and that's called confirmation bias. Now, in this case, the defense started off their theory, their defense theory, is that there was a huge conspiracy, that Karen Reed didn't hit her boyfriend, and that her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, didn't just die on the lawn right after she hit him or after he suffered from hypothermia and eventually died, but that John O'Keefe went into the Albert house, and was beaten there, attacked by a dog, and then his body was taken out and thrown on the front lawn. And everybody is conspiring. The family, the friends, the police, the emergency people, pretty much the lab, everybody's conspiring to make sure that it looks like Karen Reed did the deed and nothing happened inside this house. So that's what they've been pushing. They have a conspiracy theory. Now, their job as a defense is to get that there's reasonable doubt as to her guilt. Reasonable doubt. How do we get reasonable doubt? We throw out a whole bunch of stuff at the wall in this case because the evidence actually leans toward Karen Reed. The physical evidence, the statement evidence leans this way. And yes, it is the prosecution's job to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. But meanwhile, the defense is trying to prove, and people don't like that word, but that's what they're trying to do. That's why they're in court, is to prove that there definitely is reasonable doubt. They're trying to prove that the prosecution's case isn't that good and that there's another explanation. And their explanation is massive conspiracy theory, because they have to cover all those issues about the actual evidence and Karen Reed saying things like, I hit him. It doesn't look good. So you have to come up with something. So they have developed this conspiracy theory. Now, what they're attempting to do with it as they go through all the witnesses is to get people to believe these witnesses are all colluding and lying. And that's how you know it's a conspiracy theory. And once you can believe that is possible, game over, right? As she said, we're done here. All right. But Matt McCabe was explaining his text messages. The first thing they want to do is indicate there were three different parts of the text messages that I was listening to at this point in time. One was that he was monitoring the police at the scene, and that made him suspicious, you see. So Matt McCabe shouldn't have any interest in what's going on, but because he group texted his friends and said, hey, the police are over here, and then he said, I'll try to send a picture. Oh my God, that shows he's monitoring them. He's surveilling the police to see what they're finding out, what they're doing. And there's no more information than that. But what the defense wants you to do is fill in the blanks. That the friends and family are circling about, watching everything to make sure that the evidence doesn't pop up that links to them, and that there's evidence that, well, maybe to make sure that the evidence is planted in the proper places. Whatever, the whole point is, there's no information, there's no proof that this is what's happening. So we have Matt McCabe driving by and seeing stuff going on, makes a comment about it, texts and says, hey, I saw this. There are police over here. And oh my God, that does absolutely mean that there's a conspiracy. Or does it just mean that this is a guy who's had one of his friends has been killed, and the whole thing is a big fat mess, and everything, everybody's horrified, and the police are doing their investigations, and there is curiosity, morbid curiosity sometimes. There's just that it's a scene that's unfolding in front of you. And if he had just driven by and not commented at all, I'm sure the defense would have a statement like, you trying to pretend that the police aren't there, right, Matt? So they would have another story. Because once you have a bias, a confirmation bias, what you're trying to do is make everything look the way you want it to look. So that was one thing. The next one was that Matt McCabe referred to his neighbors as Asian. And so he got attacked for this. It's like, you don't know their names? And he said, no. And you just called him Asian. Oh my God, that makes him a racist. You see what kind of bad guy he is? He's a racist. Okay, I spent time in Asia. I spent time in East Asia, and I've spent time in South Asia. Now, if I had some neighbors and, hey, wait a minute. He didn't know one set of neighbors really well, maybe cultural things, maybe just never had an opportunity. I've lived in a number of places where I couldn't tell you what the names of my neighbors were because I just never had an opportunity to meet them. Or maybe I met them once and that was that. And we didn't click or whatever. But I'm pretty sure all of you out there have some neighbors you could go, yeah, the neighbor to the left, don't know them. They've been there a year and I still don't know their name. We have a new neighbor who moved in about 6 months ago. I call him the guy in the blue house. Nice guy, too. He actually came by my house when he moved in. It was Christmas. He came by with his daughter, and he gave us Christmas cookies. And I thanked him. So it was so sweet. So later on, I went back and I dropped a package at his house with a puzzle and a toy for his daughter. Still don't know his name. I haven't had that much interaction with him. So I don't know exactly what his first or last name is. I know he's a guy in the blue house with a cute daughter. Okay, call me a bad person. That's not racism. I mean, and I didn't tell you what race he was, but hey, I just don't know. Now, so we have Matt McCabe says his neighbor's Asian. How dare you? Okay. Well, first of all, if he's seen them just walking by, he's probably gathered they're Asian. Now, a lot of people don't know the difference between East Asian and South Asian. I'm guessing this person, from what I've heard, is East Asian. But that family could be from China, Japan, Taiwan, Korea, Mongolia. They're all East Asian. And I'm pretty sure if you're not one of the people from their country, you probably don't recognize the facial differences to say, oh, that person's Korean. So would that make you less racist if you could say they were Korean? Clearly, he didn't say. He said Asian. East Asian is different from South Asian. South Asian includes India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, whole bunches of places. If I saw somebody at a distance or didn't know them yet, didn't know their last name, I wouldn't say that, oh, that's an Indian person, because personally, I wouldn't know if they're Indian or Pakistani or whatever. If I were being careful, I might say South Asian. And I've spent time in India, a lot of time in India. I would still say maybe South Asian, or maybe I would have guessed wrong. And then somebody would have attacked me for that. So that was the second thing. Oh, make him have to be a racist, because once he's a racist, he's a bad guy. Can't believe anything he says. All right. Now let's go to this comment. Tell him to tell them the guy didn't go into the house. Mm-hmm. All right. What was this in reference to? Apparently, this is reference to, there's a group message he was on, and Brian Albert was on the group message, Brian Albert here. And so Matt McCabe was on there with his wife and Brian, and I forgot the other. And he said there was a point where the conversation was about Chris Albert, which is his brother. And Chris Albert had been at the bar, but did not go to the after party, went home. And his son showed up later. That was Colin. He had gone to the party, came home and said, hey, guys, I'm home. And that was it. And they didn't find out about what had happened to John O'Keefe until the morning. Now, apparently the media was lurking about. This is 3 days later. The media is lurking around. So Matt McCabe wasn't saying, don't tell the police, or don't say this, or tell the police this. He wasn't doing that. He's talking about the media. And anybody who knows the media should know the media well. The media is always digging for a story. They always want some kind of something that they don't care about the truth these days anymore, or facts. They're more interested in how many people will get excited about whatever they write. That's why for example, I never do print media anymore. I used to do print media interviews until I realized they misquoted me so many times. I left out the context of things, and I said, I'm done with that. I would only do things that were live so that I stopped even doing most things that were taped, because those also could be chopped up on the cutting room floor. And then people say, oh, look what Pat Brown said. And I'm like, I never said that, or I never said that in that context. So what I do is only live stuff, unless it's something I'm not worried about at all. If I'm doing a documentary on serial killers and I'm being brought in as an expert, they're not out there to get me. But if it's some case thing, I'm going to talk about a case and there's two sides. Oh, I won't do those anymore, because I will end up often getting libeled, and I don't like it. So I stopped doing that because I don't trust the media and how they behave. Except for there are some journalists that are fabulous, and when I know they're okay, then I'll do something with them. But so here we have a situation where you're starting to have the media, flocking about. And so I guess Chris Albert was going to do, the media was approaching him, and he wasn't there. So in the context of that, Matt McCabe said to Brian and the group, tell him to tell them that the guy didn't go into the house. So in other words, he probably figured they were all going to be, what happened with John O'Keefe? Did he make it to the party? Blah, 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 blah. And he said, just tell him the guy didn't go in the house. Now, the defense attacked for a number of things. First of all, that he said the guy and not John O'Keefe. You're texting, and you're texting probably while you're driving, and you're just trying to put something in there, and you're going. And the point is, people call people the guy. That's not uncommon. Just because he's your friend doesn't mean you have to call him John every time. When you're talking about the situation, and they're going to come and say, well, did the guy go into the house? That's what the media is going to say. He said, no, the guy did not go into the house. So the use of the guy is not like he didn't care about John O'Keefe. This is just nonsense crap. Or he knew that his friends killed John O'Keefe, or his son killed John O'Keefe. Therefore, he can't say his name. See, this is the thing they're trying to infer to the jury, that Matt McCabe is trying to cover up what had happened by this use of the word guy. And the next thing is, Yannetti says, you were trying to get your story straight. And Matt McCabe said, no, we're not. These are the facts. They're not stories. They're facts. So if John O'Keefe didn't go into the house. That's a fact, according to the people who were there. And they're relating to a person who was not there. Don't forget. Tell them the guy didn't go into the house. They're telling him a fact. Now it's not Chris Albert is not going into a police interview at that point. They're not telling him to lie. They're not telling him, okay, make sure you say this because otherwise the police will suspect us. None of that is going on. It was an offhand comment about, oh, yeah, you're talking to the media. And the response from Brian Albert was, exactly. And then that was where Yanetti's like, we're done here. We're done. Gotcha. No, you didn't get anybody, maybe part of the jury, which is exactly what you're trying to do. You've set up the whole conspiracy thing, and now this is confirmation bias. We're going to have Matt McCabe say this thing, tell him to tell them the guy didn't go into the house, and then Brian Albert says, exactly. And that means they're getting their story straight. So they don't want the story to, they want to make sure that everybody says John O'Keefe didn't go into the house. All right. Now, I want to point out something I read here that Chris Albert said. All right. Chris Albert testified he didn't see any injuries on his son when Colin Albert returned home that night, nor at any point the next day. Soon after he awoke on January 29th, 2022, Chris Albert said his wife entered their bedroom and told him something had happened to O'Keefe. I was in shock, he said. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? This is the next important paragraph. They headed over to 34 Fairview Road and found Brian and Nicole Albert, Brian Higgins, and Jennifer and Matt McCabe sitting around the kitchen table. Well, I'm going to say, if you're trying to get your story straight, that will be the time to do it. You're all together in a private location. You can talk it all out, and you could say, every one of you, you better just absolutely say to the police and to the media that John O'Keefe never entered the Albert home. Everybody got that straight? Say it again. We're going to say to the police and the media, John O'Keefe never entered the home. That's the time they would have gotten their story straight, not in a text message about the media. If you already got that straight, you don't want to talk to anybody on text message because you don't want to blow your story apart. You don't want to leave evidence. And the reason why they were texting each other at that point was because there was no conspiracy. These were just people who got caught up in this nightmare. And they're emotional, and they're trying to figure out what's going on, and they're just doing what people do, which is text each other and talk to each other. But the defense is going to try to play that off as some huge conspiracy thing again, and they're looking for every time that they can say one of the main players is a liar, a racist, cold-blooded. They're perfectly willing to throw Karen Reed under the bus. That they're totally conspiring, and because of their positions in the community and the police, that they can have this massive control over everybody else as well. It's a ridiculous theory, absolutely ridiculous. But this is where they put that theory out there, and they want to they put these things out to confirm that conspiracy theory. They're hoping that this will do it. The same thing with the dog thing. I don't know how many people I see all over the internet saying, oh my God, well, it's clearly the dog bit up his arm and the dog was in the house. So that confirms it. No, that's your conspiracy again. There's never been proof that the dog caused any injuries to his arm. But in order to have the conspiracy theory work, you have to confirm that the dog bit up his arm. So that's called confirmation bias. And in this case, conspiracy confirmation bias. So let's see how the rest of the trial plays out. Not all of it's done. I have a personal viewpoint of where I think what the verdict might be, and I'll get to that when we get to the stage where the jury goes out to figure that out. Because as is quite true with civilian jury system, it's like just rolling the dice as to whether they come back guilty or not guilty. This is why I believe in a professional jury system. We wouldn't have a lot of this nonsense being played out in court. It wouldn't drag on as long as all of this if we had trained people who went to jury school, where they go and they learn about crime scene analysis and all this stuff. They actually get a little degree of some sort, and they go on. That becomes a job for them. And therefore, then the defense attorney and the prosecution can't pull a lot of the shady stuff that they pull, because they're they're trying to get to your emotions and trying to get whatever theory they're trying to get to you to confirm by dots that they're trying to connect together, that if you had experience, you would know those don't connect together, and you would just roll your eyes. So if I was sitting there in a professional jury and they're saying, you called that family Asian, I'm like, can you not waste my time? That's stupid, So I'm a very, very big proponent of a professional jury system, which we do not have in the United States. I would like to see perhaps 5 people on a professional jury. I think we would solve a lot of problems. But people are obsessed with civilian jury systems, which I call 12 people off a bus stop, 12 well-meaning people who know nothing about crime scene analysis. And the defense will never put you on the jury if you do know something. You think they're ever going to allow me on a jury? Never. So I don't have to worry about jury duty. But they will find people, good-hearted people perhaps, just regular folks of all sorts. Nothing wrong with them. They're sitting on the jury for weeks and weeks, torturing themselves with the boredom and getting exhausted and trying to figure out who's telling the truth when they have no experience and no education in it. And they throw experts out there, and they're supposed to figure out which experts is telling the truth. The defense expert, prosecution expert, how would they know? They haven't been to school for this stuff. They put people out there with PhDs and 20 years of experience and say to them, this is what this means. So somehow the dog bite stuff, you get two sides of that. One expert will say the dog bite absolutely, the injuries on his arm are definitely dog bite or dog injuries, and the prosecution will say they're absolutely from the car or from the street or from whatever. You got 2 different experts. How is a civilian jury who does not understand forensics, doesn't understand pathology and damages to bodies due to different types of injuries, supposed to tell which one of those experts is telling the truth? Because somebody's a liar or somebody's incompetent. How would 12 people have no experience understand that? No experience in crime scene, anything. They go a lot of times with emotion and they're guessing the best they can. And I'm sorry, but a justice system should not have a determination of guilty or innocence based on, or guilty or not guilty, based on guesswork by people who have no training. If I want my car fixed, I don't go and ask somebody who doesn't know anything about cars what I should do. I'm going to find somebody who understands cars. If I want to travel overseas, and I want to go to a certain country, I'm not going to ask somebody who's never left the United States how I should do these things. Where should I go, and what kind of travel arrangements should I make for somebody who's never traveled? It's idiotic. But we understand that. But when it comes down to jury system, 12 people have a bus stop. My heart goes out to them. They don't get, their pay is ridiculous. What little miniature pay they get. Their lives are up. And in this particular case, I'll say this before, I won't say, I think the jury's going to come down yet. But I'll say this, with all the hate out there and all the mob stuff out there that says free Karen Reed, anybody who dares disagree with that or says, let's see what the prosecution has to say. They are so vicious and nasty, and they are out there protesting. They're protesting even the trial existing. And Turtle Boy and his little minions have been out there threatening people. So if I were on that jury, I'd be scared. I would. And all you need is one person to say, look, if we find her guilty, I don't know what will happen to myself and my family. I think they're going to be scared. And I think this trial is a mess because of that, because it can't be done in a proper way. And you can't trust that the jury has the confidence to be able to determine whether she's guilty or not guilty without fear for their family and from what I've seen so far. It's just, I wouldn't want to be on that jury. I wouldn't. I feel sorry for him. Anyway, those are my thoughts on where we're at today. And if you haven't been to the channel before, please do subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications. I will probably talk about this case again when there is something worthwhile talking about. And you can check my playlist for. I talk about a lot of cases. I do not obsess on one case. My whole point is to teach crime scene analysis and profiling. So I have many shows which you can watch on different cases, which you can learn something if that's what your interest is. But yes, I will speak on this case again because probably there'll be something else that comes up which will strike me as something that is worth people understanding. So anyway, thank you for being here, and yes, subscribe, click the bell. See you next time. Bye.